Right, let's break down all the reasons why Liverpool went out of the Europa League against Atalanta over 2 legs in the quarter-final stage of the competition. Very, very frustrating time, obviously, for Liverpool, but also just feels a little bit confusing sometimes when you first go out. I kind of want to break some of that down. I kind of want to break down the point we are in the season, and also why Liverpool aren't the only club suffering from this, because sometimes, especially on social, it can feel a little bit as if your club is the only club that's getting called out or sort of picked out. And frankly, Europe has been a bit of a struggle for England this week, and I think we can talk about that in a little while. First of all, let's talk about why Liverpool struggled. First leg, they struggled defensively. Not necessarily in terms of like individual mistakes, though there were definitely some individual mistakes in terms of offsides and also in terms of just tracking certain players, but because Atalanta matched Liverpool exceptionally well. And when I say matched, I mean there are always going to be solves to any system. There are obviously more dominant systems and less dominant systems. Systems where if you have exceptionally technical players, or you have exceptionally good players, then your team are always going to thrive in that. But, and you know, obviously Pep Guardiola, Arsenal, lots of other teams in Europe are very good at dominating play. But even those systems can be found out, as we found out against Real Madrid, against Bayern Munich, particularly also in Europe when there are plenty of other sides who have controlling football who then struggle. Barcelona have gone from controlling football to counter-attacking football, back to controlling football, back to counter-attacking. What are PSG currently under Luis Enrique? Anyway, that's kind of beyond the point at this point. There are solves to every system, broadly, is the point. And Atalanta and Gasperini are extremely perceptive, first of all, but also they're extremely well set up to counter what it is that Liverpool are trying to achieve. First of all, Klopp hates playing Italian sides, especially in this kind of formation. He hates playing back threes, he hates playing low blocks, obviously. And Liverpool kind of came up with some solves to some of those things at the beginning of the season. Some of that momentum or the ideas behind those was broken up when Liverpool had a bit of injury problems, but also were beginning to, I don't know, not struggle, but like just beginning to look at the way that the team's kind of putting together a bit of momentum. And some of their more obvious characteristics, such as the counter-attacking football, the movement changes, where Salah was playing, where Nunez was playing, where Diaz was playing, were things that kind of ebbed and flowed. At times, other teams didn't really know how to deal with it. At times, Liverpool almost tripped themselves up with it. And the way they tripped themselves up against Atalanta was Atalanta had a very good solve for Liverpool. They went man-to-man throughout the field, kind of countered Liverpool's press, but in like a weird way because of the proximity, but also because they were more than willing to foul Liverpool, they were more than willing to get in their faces, and they were more than willing to pressure specific players, which was kind of like a weird individual press that Atalanta had that really worked against Liverpool, which I get. But also just that it was really well executed and Liverpool didn't really have an overall solve for it. And frankly, I'm not sure they kind of came up with a great solve over both legs. They came up with a solve, but whether they could actually consistently execute it and whether Gasperini had little tweaks that you could do to kind of counter Liverpool's solving again, I think that happened. So yeah, it's been a frustrating evening, mainly because Gasperini knew what Liverpool were trying to do. Get it wide, foul those players that get it wide. Get it in the middle, kind of just before the centre circle, foul those players. Curtis Jones, McAllister, even Endo, even Szoboszlai, right? And the frustration obviously with that was some of those players didn't have their best games. Partially because they were a little bit cancelled out, but also partially because some of them were coming back from injury. Some of them weren't quite sure where they were fitting into the team. I think there was an interesting theory put forward that Liverpool still kind of lack a little bit of bite in midfield. Szoboszlai isn't quite the bitey type. McAllister's definitely got a bit of bite to him, but it's not a Henderson or a Fabinho or a Thiago type sort of bam, you're down kind of thing. And of course, as good as Jones is, I think he's looked a little bit wayward since he's come back. I know there have been some really great moments for him. I know we've seen some lovely turns, some great technical ability, but clearly, in order to take Liverpool to another level, the system needs to be a bit more cohesive. And in the midfield, it really broke down for Liverpool, meaning the front line were making really weird moves. At times, people getting frustrated with Cody Gakpo. At times, people getting frustrated with Darwin Nunez, Luis Diaz. Some of them sometimes saw support in the second leg, very rarely saw that support in the first leg, and over those 2 legs, Gasperini managed to cancel out a lot of what Liverpool were trying to achieve in the midfield, and therefore in the whole system, whether it be the fast movement, whether it be get the ball, give it and go, and then re-receive it, and also Gasperini managed to cancel out a lot of the width that Liverpool had, something that's always been key to Klopp's games. But something that's also happened throughout the Klopp era has been, frankly, ties like this. Liverpool have had times where they've let their eye off the ball, where they've been allowed to lapse in the way that they judge things, where they've been allowed to lapse in the way that they play the opposition, and have had to kind of rescue a result. And I do think sometimes the sides sort of feel a little bit like, hey, we can rescue a result from any position. In fact, to the point where tonight, actually, even going 3-0 down into a second leg, Liverpool fans are thinking, hey, it's probably possible here. We've got great front line. We've got a lot of the possibility of goals. We've got a great team who are really good at, turning things over and turning things around. We've got a history of that more recently. I covered that over on the main channel. But that doesn't always happen. And frankly, there are a lot of reasons why. Partially because if you're trying to force it rather and give away loads in the first leg, then you're always going to put yourself in a difficult position. Gasperini played the pacing really well. Again, fouling. Again, wasting a lot of time. Again, frustrating Liverpool. Again, it's not really whether it frustrates us as fans, it's what it does to the players. Sapping energy, times when they give the ball away, like Szoboszlai gave the ball away quite a lot. They were clearly trying to force it, move it into unusual areas they're not really used to moving into because, again, Gasperini's formation sort of cancelled out a lot of what Liverpool were trying to do. And that takes a lot of mental reprogramming and just agility from Liverpool to kind of change things on the fly, but also just week to week. They'll go into a game this weekend against Fulham and then a game against West Ham, actually a game against Everton and then a game against West Ham. And the frustration will be that all 3 of those games, they'll have to play slightly tweaked systems. Whereas, obviously the idea from the fans is, well, we just play a style, we play a system, and that sort of works. It's not quite working like that. Anyway, the point being, there was also just some really poor finishing in the second leg. If the defence was the problem in the first leg, finishing in the second leg was definitely that. Salah put an opportunity just wide of the post, probably would have finished that in any other situation. Liverpool actually very often didn't give themselves great opportunities. They gave themselves half decent opportunities. But Klopp quoting and saying, we created 67 chances in the games that we either drew or lost. Yeah, a lot of those chances didn't feel like particularly high quality chances. I think quality of chance is definitely more important than just creating chances. And I think peppering the opposition, having that kind of ability to pull them around and create a game state that you can win from is important. That's what Arsenal and City, and to an extent Liverpool, have done this year. Game state, and when I say by that, is if Liverpool are 1-0 up, which they got fairly early on, they needed to strike with a second. And when Salah put that one wide, when Liverpool had a couple of people go through, when they could have counter-attacked a little better, when they could have just been slightly sharper and got it to 2-0, then that puts more pressure on someone like Atalanta. They go in at half-time. They're just trying to defend. Liverpool just need one more goal. They push for that one more. There's a slightly different push. There's a slightly different press, which only really in retrospect you can see that you need sometimes. Sometimes when you're in the game, when you're panicking a little bit, when you're trying to change things, it doesn't quite get to that point. And you can kind of see that it wasn't just working for Liverpool all that well, right? Game state was very much tipping back towards Atalanta because they could foul, they could waste time, their goalkeeper spent a lot of the time laying down on the ball. The referee sometimes was calling like unusual fouls for Atalanta and then not calling fouls on Liverpool players that felt like very clear fouls to me. Again, not blaming the ref. I think Liverpool let this one get away from them. And if you got someone like Hendo in the team, if you got some of the leaders who are maybe just a little bit more physical, maybe slightly more imposing, does this game go a little bit differently? It's not to say that Virgil van Dijk's a bad captain or that, whatever. But, even Klopp spoke about it in his post-match. Slightly longer from Trent in this game, and maybe there's just a little bit of a difference in the edge. Slightly longer from Salah. If we weren't at this point in the season, yeah. Anyway, there's a bit of that, but there's also these 2 other factors. There is an FA Cup type scenario that most big teams go through in the Europa League, right? Where if you are playing a smaller team, and Liverpool are clearly one of the bigger teams playing a smaller team, they're always going to play up to you. That's going to be one of their biggest games in the season. As Gasperini said before the second leg, but also knowing obviously where the first leg could go, and knowing there was an upset possibly on the cards, if they do this, this will be one of the biggest results in their club's history. It's not arrogant from Liverpool to say that. Gasperini himself said that. So playing up to some of these big occasions is obviously a big thing for Atalanta. And at this point in the season, I think what we're seeing is Premier League clubs are suffering from playing, it's not necessarily about quality, but in such an intense league. And the intensity is definitely something that is making these teams struggle. The Premier League probably has to address this, because if the Premier League ends up losing out in terms of Europe, at this point we're probably, in fact we were definitely losing that 5th spot, which probably would have massively benefited the Premier League in the first place, because the more Champions League spots you can earn, all these kind of things, the better quality of team, the more money coming into the league, all these kind of things, making it more competitive. We kind of need that at this point. Like, I get it. Obviously, it's in the interest of a Liverpool or Chelsea or whoever. Not Chelsea. Why did I quote Chelsea? The one team I picked, Liverpool, City, all those sides, right? To not have a 5th place, because obviously they don't want that financial diversity. But it's actually in the interest of the league to have that financial diversity. It's actually in the interest of the league that West Ham do well in this, that Liverpool do well in this, that Aston Villa do well in the Europa Conference League, all these kind of things, right? My point being, this is not the point of, hey, we're a really good league, so, I think one of my greatest weaknesses is actually that I'm almost too good. To an extent it's that, but it's also that it's just very intense football in the Premier League. But also, we don't allow our clubs long enough, breaks. We had those 10-day points, Arsenal went away and got that kind of half break, Dubai bump thing. What did Liverpool do with that time? I think they were just exhausted. The international break at this point is also a bit of an issue. What I'm saying is, these things are not directly responsible. They're indirectly responsible for Liverpool going out, for City going out, for Arsenal going out, because other leagues give their teams a better run at these things. And, I say that as a fan who gets a little bit frustrated when I see my team burning out. I want to see them playing the best football. If you have a sharp team, if you have someone who's thinking, if you have a slightly shifted game state because your team has scored 2 and not 1, again, the opportunities open up more because the game state is changing, because then the mentality of the opposition is changing, all these kind of things. It's kind of a cumulative thing. People tonight are going to be picking over individual mistakes. Know that the issues here are cumulative throughout a season. And people say, oh, well, you've got to manage your fitness better, all these kind of things. Yeah, especially when you've got all of the technological advances and all the technological advantages of the Premier League, where you have the resource to get your players as fit as possible, where you have the overall advantage of just being a money team who can afford to spend on rehabilitation, all those kind of things. But at the same time, there's a point where people just physically, the human body burns out, because it's nothing to do with design, it's to do with it isn't able to go any further. People get tired, people are recovering from injuries, all these kind of things. That's what I'm saying, it's cumulative. It's not just one thing. So picking on Liverpool's mistakes and saying it's this player is not good enough, I think is a weird thing to say. Because last season there were people making similar claims about Arsenal, and they've gone on to, again, kind of up their level a little, but is it quite enough? The same for City. The same for a number of teams. This isn't just a Liverpool symptom at this point. And the fact that it seems so widespread, shall we say, certainly is concerning, I'd say, for the Premier League, because are they really serving their top teams, and are we doing the best we could to facilitate the best managers and those kind of things? Having said that, obviously the money's still there. There's so much benefit. There's so much to being in the Premier League. Will they change it yet? Probably not. It's frustrating to watch as a Liverpool fan, because actually I do think if they'd have scored another after that original one, I think Liverpool go on to at least challenge Atalanta more than they did. Atalanta managed to just cancel out so much of what Liverpool were doing, frustrate Liverpool in a way where we can foul you, we can waste time on the ball, all of these kind of things. They played it so well, and Gasperini played it so well. You could see the right smile on Klopp's face. If you're going to go out to anyone, it's probably Atalanta you want to go out to. You don't want to go out to West Ham. You don't want to go out to Leverkusen. You don't want to go out to Marseille. You don't want to go out to Benfica. You want to go out to a side that seems to have some heart, seems to have some history, not history better than others, but just a little bit of recent history that just gives them something where it matters to them. I love that. Is this good for the Premier League in Liverpool? If City and Arsenal had have gone through, I would say yes. But let's be honest here, City and Arsenal didn't go through, and I think all 3 teams focusing on the league now, I think City don't drop any more points. There's still an opportunity maybe for them to do so, but I don't think they do. I think Liverpool probably do drop some more from this position just because they look as if they're feeling the effects a little bit, though let's see if they're going on fumes after this and they're a little bit more angry, though we said that in the previous game and the previous game. And I think Arsenal, now having gone out of the Champions League, can fully focus on the league. What I'm saying is Liverpool are now third favourites to win the league, but I'd love to know your thoughts on that. I, tonight, would have loved to see, maybe not Jota start, but maybe, Jota come on earlier. Maybe Jota starts on the left. That's my point. And then on top of that, I think there were some frustrating decisions made at number 9 this evening. Cody Gakpo, I actually don't have a problem with. I actually really liked his hookup play. I actually think he's a pretty decent player. There's some people making the claim he's a Europa League player. Clearly not. But you get my point. And then on top of that, when Núñez came on, the structure had almost completely gone, or what they were trying to do was structurally broken down very well by Atalanta, and we couldn't make it work. We couldn't make it match. And I think that's a better way of putting it at that point. Frustrating, sure. Individual errors and things adding up cumulatively, yes. This is a cumulative impact on this side. It's just the way it is sometimes. It is sad because that was Jurgen Klopp's final European game. And as good as it is to get a win, obviously it would have been a better win in the final. It would have been good to do that in Dublin. But not everything is meant to be. You can't have everything. And to an extent, the fade in this competition seems weirdly fitting to what is going on right now in the feeling. You can't have everything. I just want something more though. Let me know what you think in the comments below. We've had some amazing European memories under Klopp, so I don't feel hard done by necessarily. What would have been lovely is to see him complete that collection of trophies. Yeah, that is frustrating actually. I wanted to see him do that final one. Yeah. See you guys again on this channel as well. If you're not already signed up to the Patreon, it's up there. Loads of good chat over there. Discord down there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Much love. Bye.